The Living Zen-podcast is a gift from the members and associates of the Victoria Zen Centre to you. If you enjoy it, please be sure to let your friends know about Living Zen. If you'd like to support our community, download the Living Zen-podcast app for iPod, iPhone, and Android. One of the most meaningful ways to show your support is by becoming a part of our Sangha as an associate. Your commitment of $10 a month will ensure that offerings like the Living Zen podcast and our online e-Zendo will continue to be available around the world to everyone with an interest in truly living Zen. To become an associate, please visit our website at zenwest.ca and click on Become an Associate. Many more Zen Talks are available for purchase on iTunes and Amazon.com. Just search for Venerable Eshu Martin. These talks are also available for free on our website to all members and associates of the Victoria Zen Centre. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your support. As I got out of the car this evening and started walking up to the chapel, I was just really struck by the overwhelming fragrance that's emanating from Finnerty Garden. I think it's beyond doubt that spring has sprung. Birds are singing. And I find myself sort of opening up after a winter, rainy, cold, coldish kind of a winter. It's a great time of year. This is the time of year that in the Zen tradition we celebrate the birth of the historical Buddha Shakyamuni. In the Japanese tradition, it's celebrated on April 8th. And in many other traditions of Buddhism, it's celebrated a little bit later. Usually the first full moon in the 5th lunar month or something like this. So we're celebrating it this year on the 27th of May. It's a Sunday. It's going to be a big party. I hope you all come. It's right here. But what we look at in springtime, what we look at, this blossoming forth that the world does, is also a great opportunity for us to reflect or to investigate our own practice. For each of us, as we develop and as we grow as human beings, we, from a very young age, begin to become very and increasingly more and more narrow. What I mean by this is that when we're children, when we're just babies, the possibilities before us are virtually limitless. Which way we will go, what will we become, how will we behave. But as we grow and develop, we meet boundaries, we meet restrictions, we meet causes and conditions that lead us to move, to act, to choose in very more and more specific ways. As we become teenagers and young adults, we begin to feel both that we're coming into our own, we're developing our own personality, who we really are. And as we continue to get older and older, though, this very same feeling, this very same tendency to clarify or to specify or to sort of narrow down who it is we are, what it is that we like, what we want to do. We experience different things, and we find that this same tendency begins to also feel limiting, begins to feel like a container rather than supporting us or helping us anymore, it begins to feel more and more like a prison, something that we're stuck in. We see things on the other side that may interest us, that may make us curious or want to explore those things. But because of the person we are, because of the types of things that we like, that we choose, we can't do that. One of the ways that I'd like to talk about this in the context of practice is like an egg. When an egg sort of is produced, there's something that's very soft, very malleable, very vulnerable in many ways inside of it. And it's in a very early stage of development. And when we're young children, we're very much like this soft yolk, this very vulnerable, malleable sort of substance. There's tremendous potential, limitless potential. But it's also very dangerous, very fragile. And as time passes, that yolk begins to develop, begins to grow. And the structure that's around it, this shell, provides protection, provides safety, provides shelter, warmth. And it allows this soft goo that's inside to grow, to develop, to transform. This is very much just like the way that we develop this idea of self, who it is that we are. And just like this developing chick, this developing baby that's inside of the egg, as it continues to grow, as it continues to get bigger, this structure, the very nature of this structure is rigidity, so it doesn't grow. So there comes a point in this development, in this metamorphosis, in this transformation, where the shell, the structure, this self that we create, that was once a shelter and a protection and a support, a place where we could be safe to develop, begins to get smaller and smaller and smaller. We begin to feel it pinching. We begin to feel it squeezing us. And yet, as human beings, throughout our lives, we continue to grow and develop. And at a certain point in our lives, we reach this critical place. And this critical place is what we're always pointing to in Zen practice. This place is the balance point between life and death. This place where there is absolutely no more room inside of this shell. There's no more room for us to grow inside of this fixed idea of who it is that we think we are. Practice points to life outside of this shell. Practice points to life beyond this thing that we call a self. It points to life which is unlimited, boundless, the manifestation of our true nature. But to break out of our shell, to blossom forth, is something which is often very frightening, because it requires us to leave the safety of our shell. It requires us to break outside of everything that we've ever known, everything that we've ever trusted, everything that we've ever used to hide behind. This is expressed in one of the koans in a collection called the Mumonkan. A teacher gives this metaphor that you're like a person who's hanging from a tree by their teeth. Your arms can reach no branches, and your feet can't get a grip on any trunk. And you hang over this great chasm by your teeth. All of a sudden, another person arrives at the bottom, the base of the tree, and looking up, asks a question. This question is phrased in all kinds of different ways. But the essence of the question is, what's the meaning of this? What's the meaning of your life? Now, the situation, the problem is that if you answer, then you lose your life, all that you know. And if you don't answer, then you have failed that person at the base of the tree. Now, of course, with all cases, we have to investigate them from all angles. And it is important to understand that in every case, every aspect of it is not outside. Each component is a part of our self. So when we investigate this question, we have to understand that this person hanging in the tree is nobody other than ourself. This tree is also nothing other than ourself. This person at the base of the tree represents nothing other than ourself. As we grow and develop, as we create this person who we think we are, this situation that we think is good, this life that we think is so important, how do we hold it? Are we like this man hanging by our teeth, that if we do anything out of place, it's all lost? Does losing this terrify us so much that we're completely incapable of doing anything? When we find ourselves in this situation, are we able to hear this question? What is this all about? This question doesn't arise from outside of us, but from within. Over and over, as we live our lives, this question will arise. Why are we doing this? What's the meaning of this? Why? Over and over again, we find ourselves fixated, stuck, hanging by our teeth to this world that we've created, this situation that we've worked so hard to put ourselves in, this self that we take ourselves to be. We are, each of us, this chick in the egg. Each of us struggling, striving, and quite naturally growing and developing, and constantly being squeezed against the limitations of our own self. As we go forward as human beings, growing, vibrant, transforming human beings, in each of these situations we find a choice. We can either burst forth as each of these flowers in the gardens gives us an example. Burst forth, and doing so, letting go of everything that has been in the past. We can't put it back together again. But we enter into a vast new world. Or we can allow our fear, our hesitation, our worry to crush us, to squeeze us against our own self-concern until we can't really call ourselves alive. Just ghosts clinging to bushes and weeds. Each spring, each time we celebrate the Buddha's birthday, what we recognize, what we acknowledge, is that the Buddha provided us with an example of what it is to be a human being that completely and wholeheartedly steps forth, bursts forth, completely explodes into what it is to fully manifest as a human being, to completely realize the potential of what it is to be a human being. The Buddha does not mean a holy person, doesn't mean saint or God or angel. Buddha means the one who is awake. And one of the fundamental teachings of the Buddha is that this potential, this capacity to wake up to our true nature is inherent in all of us, in everything in this vast universe. It doesn't require anything special. You don't have to buy anything or get anything or chase anything. Already, this is your capacity. All that is required is the courage to burst forth.
Thanks for listening to the Living Zen podcast. If you follow Living Zen through iTunes, I would very much appreciate it if you would take a moment to let me know what you think about it by rating or reviewing the podcast, so that new listeners can also hear what you have to say. Thank you for your time and for your support.